So this video here is, I'm going to entitle it DW Link, Why I Think It Works So Well. I honestly, 20 years of riding full suspension bikes, off-road, four different bikes now, actually probably five, but four main bikes. And I've never had a bike that performs like this with pedal motion. And it got me thinking as to why it works so well. I had some theories. And I actually did a test today, and the theory was proven in the test. So you're going to see that here in a second. But obviously I have the pivot in front of me here. And we do see a lot of suspension designs these days in the mountain bike world. All of them have multiple pivots, multiple moving pieces that offer a rear suspension design. This one here, I don't know if there's a real actual technical term for it. I mean, they used to call things max strut, 4-bar linkage, so on and so forth. This is kind of a defined linkage, in my opinion. You've got the rear part here, defined and rigid. In fact, this whole piece back here is, I mean, this part here comes up, this part here goes down. On the other side, it's not there. It's very similar to other designs. VPP by Santa Cruz has a very similar design where they have a link here, a double jointed link here, and a double jointed link here. And I think it's isolating itself from pedal motion is what I think it's doing. But I want to talk really quickly about what I think when I think about motion and why things work, why things don't work. Obviously, when you're pedaling, obviously I'm going in reverse, but when you're pedaling in this direction, the force is moving this way, and a lot of that force is put down right in here. So the worst place you could possibly put a pivot would be right here. That would be the worst place. And obviously the flying Y bikes are a great example of that. Almost any single pivot, because it's just got one pivot that it's all relying on, everything is universal around the one pivot. If this was the one pivot, it still would make a lot of motion because the bike is broken in that, the motion is broken. You've also got the pedal motion of the chain and the force of the chain as a, main point. So let's take a look at the other side of the bike and I can show you what I'm thinking. Now that we've moved the bike around, you can kind of see what I'm getting at here. Obviously, you can see the arm here going up to the other side pivot that we looked at. There's no arm on this side. It comes down and the arm is only on this side coming back. So this is the defined rear part. Undefined, defined, whatever. And obviously, if you're wondering, this was my attempt to do a mud guard. I'm still working on that. Anyways, we have, obviously the pivots are right here and here. And what makes it so special is the pedal motion. I mean, look at where the chain ring is. You're going forward. Your force is here, moving forward. This, look at this. This chain link is identical to this. It's like I call this the chain link pivot because it's right in line with the chain link. That force of the chain link going this way and this force aren't the same. The motion is this way. This is tightening up when there's pedal force motion. Not only that, but it's bringing the whole rear triangle in, and it's forcing this piece. This piece is going like this. This piece is going like this, in my opinion. I don't know if that's exactly accurate. But how about if this pivot link was down here? How would that be different? Well, it would be different because basically what's happening is it's also pulling from this. If this was just a single pivot here, it would be pulling, the chain would be pulling the whole rear end down into the ground. I experienced that on my Cannondale single pivot. When I had it in the granny gear, the pivot was, well, let's just say the pivot was right here. And let's say this was the granny gear, and then other gears were up above that. I actually felt like the bike dug into the ground, and I had better traction going in the granny gear, climbing up hills. That's about the only time I felt like I wasn't riding a trampoline. I'm not kidding, people. Seriously, it was like riding a trampoline. It was a great bike for what it was in that period of time. But we're moving on, people. So that's my theory. So I decided to go ahead and test it. What I did is I took my Specialized and I did the same thing, and I looked at where is the pivot in lieu of the two chain rings. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the Specialized, and I know it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to use my ruler. The pivot is here, 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 and here. This top part is very similar to the DW Link design. Horace Link is, I don't know who exactly came up with that, but that's actually, it actually is effective in pulling this part into this part and causing it to be, I mean, it's like you got a check mark here and you got a check mark here. Is kind of what I'm thinking. So some of the suspension bob is eliminated there. However, because there's just one pivot here, and because it's actually below the chain ring, so you've got your chain ring pulling this way, and the arm, because it's on a pivot, is moving this way, causing that, you know, if the pivot was up here, the pedal motion would be pulling this way, and it would be pulling down this way. It would eliminate a lot of the bob. And I'm thinking that's the main thing, the main reason why I'm getting a suspension bob. But I'm also thinking it's that chain link pivot. You know, if there's a pivot here and a pivot here, I'm not sure how they would design that around this particular link, this particular linkage. Can I talk? But I'm thinking that we would see pedal motion improvement on the FSR. I am here on the street going to test the pedal bob. I have it in the upper chain ring, which should bob the most, and I also have the front fork locked out. If you can see, that's kind of my sag. I think the sag is not set up properly right now. What I do is I'm just going to try to crank out and see how much bob I get. Standing, cranking, from here all the way to, there we go, the trail. Alright, so let's take a look. Okay, so that bobbed half of the sag. Sorry, I don't have a better ruler. So, half an inch. Okay, now, let's stay out of the garbage truck's way. Uh-oh, here comes the car. Here we go by. Okay, so now, I'll do the same test. I'm going to go down to the granny gear, and I'm going to reset my, there we go. Alright, here we go. We are cranking away. Get the rear gear in a little bit. Alright. So I only stood for the last half like I did before. Let's take a look. Shall we? Gosh, that looks like it's the same. So it is actually bobbing quite a bit in both. It's a little bit less. It's about 1/8 an inch less. Alright, I'm going to do the same test on the pivot, and this time I'm going to measure the pedal bob by, I have the sag set up, so that's basically, it's right in line with where the sag should be. So if it moves any past that, that would be the pedal bob. So let's give it a try. I have to get on the bike gingerly because I don't want it to move more than I want it to move. Alright, here we go.
Wow. It barely moved. The first time I did this, it didn't work, but you can see that it has barely moved. I have it on middle position, and I don't think it moved at all this time. Last time it moved like 1 millimeter. I'm going to go from right here down to the yellow sign. I figured it wouldn't be fair test unless I did it with the shock fully open. I also locked out the front fork, and I didn't do that for the last test. So let's get over this little lip here. We don't need to have that screwing up our test. I'm going to try to pedal as hard as I can. You have to get on the bike gingerly when you do stuff like this, because any motion. Alright, so we're cranking it. Basketball player went away. On the saddle, cranking, cranking. Oh yeah, I'm really going now. Everybody's coming home from work, so I have to be kind of careful. So, what do you think happened? Oh my gosh. See, now this is why Pivot is awesome. I have the shock fully open, I have the front fork locked out, and it still didn't move. Holy buckets! I hope you enjoyed that bonus round.